I am a professed foodie. That's right. I like food. I love it. Can I use love with food? Well, food is there for me when I need it. It doesn't complain. It doesn't need anything. I can always go to it, and it makes me feel better. That's the way that a lot of us think about food. And as we're talking about the health of our world, of our communities, as we talk about the health of our countries, food is a big part of it. We do everything surrounding food. When we get pregnant, we eat. When we find out the sex of the baby, we eat. When we bless or christen the baby, we eat. When the baby gets baptized, when the baby comes of age, we eat. When the baby gets married, we eat. When they have children, we eat. We eat for funerals. We eat for comfort. When something happens with a friend of ours, we take food. We cook and we go and we sit around food. Well, is our fetish with food really physiologic or is it psychologic? And we talked last night about how food works and how our appetite works and how hunger works. And we're continuing in the series on the science of food. And we're doing that tonight right here on this episode. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, that's right, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes. I'm talking to those people who want to reverse their metabolic disease, who are trying to lose weight, who are trying to improve their blood pressure and their cholesterol, and on and on and on and on. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that I'm happy that you're here. And if you have questions as we go throughout the show, go ahead and drop those in the comments because I'd love to get to those so that we can answer and we can do all the things that you need and get to your questions. You know how we do it here. I've got my monitors off to my side that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. And right below that is my Dexcom Clarity Report that we'll take a look at as we move into the show and see what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last several days. I am at this moment right at 48 and a half hours in this week's fast. Yes, right. That's right. As you know, we do a fast every week, and I've been doing 72 hours. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute to get as we set up for the show. But let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look and let's say hello to some of our community members. And I see Gian is here. Said, great to see you, doctor. It is my lunchtime. And Gian, you're joining us from Korea. Is that right? I'm eating lunch and see you. All right. Glad that you're here. Glad you're here. And Steve is saying hello to Gian. He says, I love food indeed. That's right. Gian says, hi, Steve. He says, I'm a food and sugar addiction and binge eater. Yes. Thank you for teaching us. How often do you fast? So I do a fast every week. We'll jump into that here in just a little bit. Gian is saying, I love food. Steve is saying, I love food too. We eat one meal a day. I ate 11 hours ago. I will eat again at lunch tomorrow. We've been doing this for 8 months and we've had great success. Yes, right. That's right. We've seen great success in all the things that we're doing. And for those of you, wherever you're joining us from, thank you for coming through. You should be seeing us on Twitch, on LinkedIn, Facebook, of course here on YouTube, Instagram. For those of you who are over there, thank you for joining us right now. We see several people that are over there. I actually see my sisters out there. Hey, Natalie, how are you? Thanks for coming through. We're going to be seeing each other soon. All right. So let's go through it. Let's hop to it. So I guess let me start with diabetes, right? Because that's a natural place to start. Over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or prediabetes. Yeah, huge. As we talk about diabetes, as we talk about blood sugars, as we talk about weight, in fact, a big component of weight has to do with food. Now, it is not the only thing, because we've talked here in this space about a lot of different things that will affect blood sugars and a lot of different things that will affect our metabolism. But a big driving force behind it is food. In fact, one of the pillars of our reversing diabetes, the pillar number 3, is to reduce sugar, and sugar has a direct, or food has a direct effect on sugar. So in this space, we've been talking about managing diabetes, reversing diabetes. How do we get metabolically healthy? And one of the tools that we've learned, that we've been using, is the tool of fasting. And so in the check-ins, what we're doing is figuring out how to fast successfully. That is one of the playlists that I've created on the YouTube channel. It's called How to Fast Successfully, and it has a list. I think at the last count, when I looked at it, there were about 100. Let me just double check, run over there. How to Fast Successfully. Yeah, so right now there are 100, and let me do this one. There are 100 videos that we've done in How to Fast Successfully. Actually, we've done more than 100, but there are 100 included in this playlist. In our playlist on how to reverse diabetes, and let me go pull that one up. In the playlist on how to reverse diabetes, there are 46 videos there, and those are each of the episodes that we've done throughout the year. Okay, so these are paired together. So how to reverse diabetes, and then of course fasting is one of the tools, and you'll see there on the YouTube channel. Go out there and watch them. But it is a powerful tool because fasting hits all 3 of the pillars of reversing diabetes that we've talking about. So decreasing our insulin, suppressing our appetite, and reducing sugar. So fasting, amazing tool in doing that. And that middle component right there, right? The middle component, suppressing our appetite, is really the thing that we all struggle with. Yeah. I've talked to people before, and they say, hey, I had actually one lady, one of our patients said, hey, if you can help me control my appetite, if you can help me not be hungry, then I could lose weight. And she went on to lose about 100 pounds and is still maintaining that. So I love this conversation. And there is science behind it. There is something that's going on in your body. As an endocrinologist, I talk about hormones all the time. And hormones are powerful chemicals within the body that will push us in different directions. And a lot of what we are talking about tonight is going to be centering around hormones and how hormones work. So in the fasting space, what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up to be successful. And in order to be successful, we want to understand fasting and how fasting works. And as part of that, how our body works. And a big part of that is how our body functions as it relates to our appetite and how it relates to hunger. And so we've started a series last night on the science of hunger. The science of hunger. And tonight we're continuing that on the role of ketones in hunger suppression. Right? So lots of different things can cause hunger, cause us to feel like we're hungry. And tonight we're talking about how ketones play into that. But before we get there, let's go ahead and do a check-in. Anytime you are working, you're trying to change something, you want to improve something, you want to make sure that you are looking at how it is functioning, how it's working in your body. And there are 3 places where people tend to get stuck when it comes to fasting, and that's how they're feeling physically, how they're feeling mentally, and emotionally. And so let's run through and let's do our check-in. So physically, I am actually feeling pretty energetic. I have been getting good rest over the course of this week. If you remember last week and the week before, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did not do that, and so I was feeling sluggish and feeling like my energy was decreased. But tonight, in this fast, I'm, like I said, a little over 48 hours in the fast, and I'm feeling pretty energetic. Can you tell? Right, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy in there, and plus, I love this conversation. Right, as a matter of fact, I was waiting to come on to have this conversation. I even started the conversation today as I was talking to patients. It was in my mind, and so as we were discussing their issues that they were having, right? So this conversation was coming up because it is a big part of what goes on in our bodies and goes on in our thought process on how can I be successful in this space, right? So that's the question people have. So anyway, so physically feeling good, feeling energetic. I'm not feeling dull. I'm not feeling as though I'm weak. I'm not feeling palpitations or lightheadedness, dizziness. And of course, I've got my cup, right? I've got my mug here, and I've got a bottle of water. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna put some in here so I can be sipping on that while we talk. All right, and then so physically and then mentally. And the mental part goes a lot with how we feel physically, because sometimes when you're tired, when you're fatigued, the brain doesn't function right. And I'm feeling clear. I'm not feeling foggy as though I'm in a bubble right now as I'm talking with you. And I feel pretty lucid in my thought process. And then, of course, emotionally is a big one because it is a direct result sometimes of our thought process and direct result of our energy. Plus, other things that are going on. So we've got some events coming up this week. We've got a group at our church, and they are joining our Pathfinder Club, and I'm the first counselor that they get when they come into the club, and so I'm excited to see them become part of the club and so forth. So it's lots of good things going on, and so emotionally I'm feeling hype, I'm feeling pumped. I've got my red on, right, and so today was a loud day for me. Someone in the office was telling me I look like you guys remember the Kool-Aid commercial where the guy's running down the big Kool-Aid. They say I look like Kool-Aid today, but that's okay. But that's how I'm feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at my blood sugars, and you'll see on the screen right now my Libre is saying that my blood sugar is 59. You'll see in the kind of a darker greenish part in kind of near the center of the screen. The range there is from 50 to 150. And you'll see that for most of today, my blood sugar has actually been in the red, and that's below 70. Okay, most of the day has been below 70. Of course, now it's 59. And as I said, I'm a little bit over 48 hours. Actually, 49 hours now that I'm looking at that. Okay, and then this is my Dexcom Clarity. Oh, and it says I need to start a new sensor. I didn't even realize that it had stopped. Okay, you guys want me to do that real quick right now? No, we'll keep going with the show. I'll do it as we go. Okay, so that's what my glucose is right now, and let's go ahead and let's take a look at my monitors because I've got a Keto Mojo and I've got a Contour. Steve, are you putting in your guess there yet? I don't see that yet. So if you think everybody, if you're out there, you think you know what my ketones are going to be, go ahead and drop that in. So I'm 49 hours into the fast right now. 49 hours. All right. So here is let's do this one. So here's my Contour. I've actually, did I put that in right? I think I did. There we go. Got my Contour, and then over here is my Keto Mojo. So let's get that strip open and into the device. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up this one. This is my ketone strip, and I want to open it because I don't want to poke myself again. If we go to my container and grab, let's see, here we go. Grab one of these Lancets that I've become used to. And this is a screw top, right? So basically screw this off, and you'll see the needle maybe right there. Can you see it? Yeah, right there. Okay, and just find a finger, and I typically use the same finger. You can't see because I've got some pokes in there, but that's the one I use all the time. So let's go ahead and ow, 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 ow. Okay, so hopefully that's good because it felt, yeah, there we go. So, oop, see, it's kind of blurry. There we go. So drop of blood, get that started, keep that blood going, get this one started. And so Keto Mojo says I'm 68, and my contour says that I am 74. And you saw, of course, the Libre there that says I was 59. And let's go ahead and change this over. Get the ketone stick in there, and go ahead and get that started. There we go. Did that work? Nope. There we go. Okay, let's get that one going. All right, and of course, as I do, I'm going to tease you guys because I'm not going to show you what it is. And I see Steve is putting in there. Steve says 101. All right, let's hop over and let's take a look at some of the comments. Let's see. Steve, wow, I am one meal a day since last summer. Eat only lunch, but weekend I end up eating a lot. How are we suppressing our appetite? Jiyun said we do a plan 7 days a week. I've lost 50 pounds. I've gotten off all my diabetic. What? Oh, so okay, that's Steve saying that. Yes, that's right, Steve. That's right. Congratulations again. I said, wow, Steve, great. Steve said, we get hungry, but we fight through it. It's become just normal for us. Jiyun said, how could you look so great under fasting? Any tips? I'm afraid I'm going to die and dizzy, sluggish, with no food all day. And so, Jiyun, a big part of what we will be talking about, and we'll do more of that tomorrow as we do our check-in, is preparation. Preparation is key to what we do, right? I really make it some days. Steve says 0.5 is what he thinks it's going to be, and then he said he's 1.1. He said he doesn't. Ji-Yoon said he doesn't have a device. He said try 12 hours of 16 to start, eat dinner a little early, then have a late breakfast or lunch. So Steve is giving some advice there on how to go about doing the fast. And yeah, so as we talked about last night, is to start gradually and then gradually expand your fasting window. So you'll start with a longer time when you're eating, and then you gradually compress that. And as you compress that, of course, the fasting gets longer. So I'm gonna do something. Give me just a second because I want to do this. I didn't intend to do it, but we're gonna do it anyway. All right. So since my sensor went out, I think it's this one. Yeah. Let's go ahead and we're gonna change my sensor. I don't think everybody's seen me do that. So let's hop over. Let's grab this one. All right. So this is my sensor, right? So I got a box. Let me go ahead, open the box, and this is my Dexcom Clarity. Just gonna open that box really quickly. All right. So here's the device. All right. So here's the device. Looks like a big screw, right? And let's go here. So here is the old one. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that off. And it just comes off like a Band-Aid. And it hurts just like a Band-Aid sometimes. Ow. All right, so anyway, so that one's off. And as you know, I have a Libre on this side. Okay, so we're changing the Dexcom. So let me do this. I'm going to, let me bring my Dexcom app up. And let's see, can I do, yeah, there it is. So that way we could see this at the same time that we have the app. And it opens like a big screw. Okay, and so right in there is that's the sensor. And let me come back to this view, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it on here, and there's a button right there that I'm going to press, and hopefully you'll hear the pop. Let's see. Let me find a good spot. Okay, hopefully you heard that. So now that's on, right? And then I'm going to go to my app, and on the app, I'm going to say start sensor. Let's see, where do I go for that? Glucose. All right, let's see. Profile. Come on, where is it? Ah, you know what? I'm in. There we are. Okay, there we go. Let me come back to this, right? So right on the screen, you'll see it says start sensor. So I'm going to hit the start sensor, and it says use this to scan. And on this device, there is a all right. So I'm going to go ahead and scan that, and then it's going to identify the sensor, and there are some little prompts that we're going to use, and that's what it is, and it's trying to find the sensor. So it'll do that. It's going to say, do you want to pair it? I'm going to say yes, and then hopefully it says paired, and then it's going to go and say sensor warm up. All right, so we should be able to get that number before we go off the show. Okay, all right, so that's just a little plus that we have, but let's go ahead and let's have our conversation. And so we're talking about the role of ketones in hunger, and we're talking about how do we get through. And one of the questions that's here is this idea of how we control hunger, right? So Gian is saying the same thing. Okay, wow, how do we do this? How, I'm fasting, I've lost weight, or I'm struggling, and it's something that we all go through, right? So it's not unique to any one of us. It's something we all go through, and so we want to talk about how do we, what's going on in our body that is causing some of this, right? And how can we set ourselves up for success? Because we're talking about fasting as a tool, and you'll see as we go through the conversation that fasting is an amazing way of being able to regulate some of the hunger. So let's hop to it. So what are ketones? I guess that's the first place to start. So ketones are byproducts of the metabolism of fat, right? So the body, when we don't have a lot of carbohydrates, the body begins burning fat, and when it begins burning fat, one of the things that's produced in the body are these ketones that we talk about, right? So they're a byproduct of fat metabolism. They're produced in the liver, right? Produced in the liver. So that's an important one to know. And give me just a second here, y'all. All right, so they're produced in the liver, and they act as an alternate source of energy in the body. So it's kind of like the hybrid car. You've got gas, and you have the battery that the car runs on. And so same thing here in the body. We have carbohydrates, and we have fat that gets burned, and as a result of burning fat, we get the ketones. So it's an alternate source of energy, and this happens especially during times when we are fasting, or when we have low energy, or we are eating a low carbohydrate diet, right? So ketosis, right? People who are on ketogenic diets, and people who are on ketogenic diets, they're still eating. They're not fasting, but they are eating such low carbohydrates that they begin developing ketones. And so that's an important point there. The key ketones that we talk about that are the ones that the body uses that gives us some of the benefits is something called beta hydroxybutyrate. Beta hydroxybutyrate, right? BHB. There are other ketones that are produced, but those are the ones that we don't want. Things like acetone, right, and acetoacetate. If you remember, we did an episode where I talked about some of the complications of fasting, like constipation, dehydration, bad breath, and the bad breath, right? The acetone is a culprit there. Okay, acetone is a culprit. And so, so this is what ketones are. They are a byproduct of burning sugar, and they come from, and let me see, let me make sure that this is what you guys are seeing. And they come from burning fat. And yeah, here we go. Okay. All right. So that's what ketones. That's what ketones are. So how does the body start using ketones? Well, as we eat, the body is taking in what we're eating, and the body's converting that into energy. So proteins get broken down, and they go to form building blocks and other things. Fat gets broken down, and it gets packaged, and it gets put somewhere else. And carbohydrates come in. The body breaks down the food, absorb the carbohydrates, and it sends it off to different parts of the body. One of the places it goes is in the liver. And then when the liver gets full, then it gets packaged and gets sent out to fat cells. Some of it goes to muscles and so forth. Okay, so that's how food is broken down. That's a big overview, like a 2,000-foot view of food metabolism, right? So when the body gets decreased in its supply of carbohydrates, then it switches over to look for other sources of energy. And one of the sources of energy, of course, is fat cells. And this switching begins usually in the 12 to 16 hour mark, but it's not like supercharged until roughly about 24 hours, right? Because it takes about 24 hours for the glycogen, all the glycogen in your liver, that's most of the glycogen, I shouldn't say all, most of the glycogen in the liver to go away. And so at that point, the body begins in earnest creating ketones, but it starts doing that even before the 24 hours, okay? The liver breaks down fatty acids into ketones. And remember, fatty acids, when the body breaks fatty acids, we have those triglycerides. Tri meaning three. So 3 fatty acids are attached to a glycerol backbone, and then the body breaks that down. The glycerol goes to create sugar, and then the fatty acids go to create ketones. So as ketones increase, they become a primary source of energy for the body. So as sugar is going down, then ketones are rising, and the body starts to attach or starts to accept ketones as a primary source. So let's talk a little bit about ketones and appetite, right? A hormone imbalance. So ketones influence 2 of the primary hormones that are responsible, that are involved with hunger and appetite. They are ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, and leptin, which is the satiety hormone. So when ketones get high, they begin to affect those hormones in different ways. So ghrelin, the hunger hormone, often decreases as the ketones get higher. So ketone levels that are high, I'll make the point, I guess, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's why when people are fasting, when their ketones are higher, they say, well, I don't feel hungry. And a lot of times people are like, well, if you've not eaten for 24 to 36 hours, why are you not hungry? Well, because my ketones are high and they've suppressed my ghrelin. Okay? And then leptin, which signals fullness, is positively impacted. So it doesn't cause a rise in the leptin, but it makes the brain more sensitive to leptin. Right? So it does cause a decrease in ghrelin, and then it makes the brain more accepting, more sensitive to the leptin that's there. Remember, leptin is the one that says, hey, I'm full. So ghrelin comes from the stomach, and leptin comes from the fat cells. So the idea there is if my stomach is empty, then my ghrelin goes up. When my stomach is full, my ghrelin goes down. So empty stomach, high ghrelin says hunger. The leptin comes from the fat cells. So as you're eating, then some of that energy is getting shuttled off to the fat cells. And when those fat cells get stretched and they're getting bigger, they produce leptin, and that leptin now goes to the brain and says, hey, my fat cells are big enough. I don't need any more stuff. Right? See how they work together? So very, very important interaction. So ketones can affect those hormones. And so how do they affect the hormones? Well, studies show that ketone levels suppress ghrelin, lowering feelings of hunger, as we just said. This effect is particularly noticeable during longer fasts, which is why people who are fasting for shorter periods will say, hey, I still feel hungry. I thought I wasn't supposed to feel hungry when I fast. Well, it's because that it's a shorter fast, and perhaps the ketones have not gotten high enough to affect the hormones. That's my watch going off. Let's see. How do I stop this thing? There we go. All right. Anyway. All right. There we are. So yes. So the shorter fast, even though they give benefit, people can still be hungry in those early hours. It's not until you get some of the longer fasts, and longer fasts or extended fasts are 24 hours or longer. If you're fasting 24 hours or more, then we're talking that a prolonged fast. Okay. So ghrelin regulation reduces the empty stomach signals, helping with appetite control. So when ketones are high, ketones suppress ghrelin, and ghrelin says, hey, even though my stomach is empty, I am not hungry, and I'm not looking for stuff to eat. Last night we talked about the difference between physiologic hunger, that is the body needing energy, and psychological hunger, that is the body or your brain saying, hey, I would like how that tastes. Let me go get some. Okay, so ketones provide a more stable. So why do ketones help the feeling of satiety? Right. So why are ketones so good at satiety? Ketones are good at satiety because they help us. They're a more stable source of energy. Right. As we talked about before, the body is breaking these down when the sugar is lower. And one of the things to understand about sugar and carbohydrates is that they fluctuate a lot more than ketones. And that fluctuation going up, when we eat, blood sugar goes up, insulin comes out, and that insulin causes stimulation of appetite. When the insulin brings the sugar down, that dip in sugar causes stimulation of appetite. Right? So we're getting this going on all day if we are relying on sugar. But when we start relying on ketones are a more stable source of energy, and it is more it's a cleaner source of energy. Let me just say that and be done. Okay? So why does it help you feel satiated? Because it provides more stable energy release compared to glucose. Right? So what this does is the stable energy reduces the frequency of hunger pangs, right? So every time you get the fluctuation, you're getting those hunger pangs. And when that happens, you're hungry. So the result is you get more control over eating, especially during fasts. Yeah, because you're getting that stable source. And so the fasting process is simpler. I'm not going to ever say it's easy, but it's simpler, and it gets easier. Let me say that. So ketones in the brain. So ketones fuel the brain efficiency, especially the hypothalamus. When we talked about the hypothalamus yesterday in our episode, the hypothalamus is that part of the brain that sits at the top and it is where the interaction of ghrelin and leptin happens. So when we are able to access the hypothalamus, as ketones can, then it can affect those hormones that are being there, right? So sufficient ketone levels signal the brain that the body has adequate energy. So remember, it's a stable source of energy, and so if it is elevated because we're burning ketones, then it goes to the brain and it causes the combination of hormones that we just talked about to say to the brain, to say to the body, hey, we have enough energy. And we don't need to go eat. And so our appetite is suppressed. So ketones also promote calmness. Yeah, calmness. And they reduce stress-related eating and urges. Much of the eating that we do has to do with stress. When I'm in the office, when I talk to people who, sometimes people will randomly ask me questions when they find out what I do and what I'm doing. And they'll say to me, right? They'll say to me that I am great until I get stressed, until that project comes, until it's that time of the year in your business, whatever your industry is, when it's crunch time. I can do well until I have an argument with my wife. I can do well until it's bill paying time. Right? So all of those things, that's stress-related eating. And so when we're fasting, it actually calms us. And when it calms us, that also helps with those stress-related cravings, right? So scientific findings. So studies should suggest, as I mentioned before, that ketone-based metabolism can curb appetite better than glucose-based metabolism. And that should make sense to you now, because with glucose we're getting the fluctuations. With the ketones we're not getting that. We're not seeing that at all. And then evidence supports that elevated ketones enhance feelings of satiety. Once again, that should make sense to you. So the result of all of this, right? The result of all of this. Or we see this result in a strong way when we look at longer term fasting or ketogenic diets, right? And other protocols that are of the extended nature, right? As we said before. So not that you're not getting benefit in the shorter ones, but as ketones get higher, we see more and more benefit in that space. That should make sense to you, right? So ketones in real life action. So what do ketones do? They reduce snack cravings during fasting windows. Isn't that cool? So we're going to come back and do as I pause there for a minute, and I'm trying to think where that is, but when that's coming, can't remember the date, but we're going to talk about snacking. We're going to talk about snacking, because I'll say to people, and I want you to think about it right now. Why do we snack? Why do you snack? It's not hunger, right? Because we said hunger is a physiologic hunger, right? It could be psychological hunger, and that will make you snack. It could be boredom, and that will make you snack. It could be a habit that will make you snack. Right? Remember the heat model, right? All those reasons are reasons why we snack. And so when we fast, during the fasting, because those ketones are causing changes in our causing changes in how the hormones are running, or hormones are affecting the hypothalamus, then we don't have those cravings for snacking, for the food, right? Awesome. All right. Let's see what else. So talking about real life. So when we're fasting, it's easier to maintain longer fasting periods. Makes sense. Should make sense to you now why that happens, because the ketones are there, and then you get increased control over meal timing, portion sizes, even after you fasted. So if we do if we get used to it, if our bodies get used to doing this, right, we become metabolically flexible. We did a show on that. Then even during our non-fasting times, when we're eating, during our eating windows, then our body is more sensitive to the changes in the hunger hormones, and we're more likely to respond to them. So we eat less. We don't have those cravings for the snacks. We're able to regulate better because we did the fasting, and the fasting is actually resetting a lot of the systems that involve hunger and appetite and satiety and all the things we talk about when we talk about the metabolism or the physiology of hunger. Okay? So this is not just, hey, in my fasting window, this is happening, but it extends now into some of the other times. Okay? So one of the things that happens during, and we'll talk more about this as we get into some of the other episodes. Remember, we're doing a series now on the science of fasting. We'll talk about some of the other hormones that are affected by fasting that the body produces, like CCK, right, which slows the metabolism of food or the transit of food in the gut, so people feel fuller longer, right? So there are lots of other things that go on that are directly impacted by fasting, by ketones, and so forth. Okay, so when we do a good job of fasting, when we learn, when we do it, when we become good at it, when we become metabolically flexible, then our bodies, even during our non-fasting times, will also we'll also get benefit there. So how do we support ketone production, right? Because you're saying, hey, if these ketones are so great, how do we support ketone production? Well, one, we want to prioritize fat intake before the fasting starts. Oh, yeah. Before the fasting starts, we want to prioritize fat intake. Because if we come into the fast having just had a lot of carbohydrates, guess what we're setting ourselves up for? We're setting ourselves up for cravings, for appetite stimulation, for physiologic or psychological hunger. But if we change that over and we start prioritizing fat as we're eating, leading up to that, remember the fat, we're not getting those spikes. Okay? We want to minimize carbohydrates during the eating window, as we just said, right? So balanced bites. Remember, balanced bites. Every bite counts. So in your eating window, you want to make sure that you are also being mindful. Don't just, hey, I've been fasting, so because I fasted, I could just now go hog wild and eat whatever I want. No, that's not the that's not the idea. Okay. All right. And then consider ketones. Consider taking ketones, and there are some people who promote taking ketones, and you can, but you want to do that under supervision, right? Do I really need them? You may want to add them because they help you get into the ketosis. There are people who drink ketones and so forth. As you see, and we'll see here in a minute what my ketones are. It's simpler to get there, but sometimes there's a little bit of a struggle, and so people want to get there quickly, and they want to stay there longer. So taking ketones, exogenous ketones, can help. So finding your optimal ketone level. So what is the optimal ketone level for everybody? We'll talk in a minute about what the ranges are, but you want to experiment. You want to experiment, well, what level of ketones do I seem to be able to lose weight but don't feel so drained, or it's not as long, right? Because remember, we want to use a tool for what the tool does for us. We want to use the tool in the best way possible, the most efficient way. So if you get 100% of your benefit if you fast for 48 hours, then there's no reason to fast for 72 hours. Right? Does that make sense? So experiment with ketones, right? So how long do I fast? What are my ketones levels? What level of ketone do I typically feel the best at? So go ahead and experiment with that. Monitor ketones, right? Means that you got to get a monitor, or you've got to get strips, the urine, or you get one of the breathalyzers, the breath ketone machines. So all of those are ways to monitor ketones. and that helps you know if you are really in the space that you want to be in. You want to aim for a balance, strong enough ketone levels for hunger to be suppressed without energy dips. Right? How much ketones do I need so my appetite is not stimulated? But then, okay, how do I go? Have I gone too far in my fasting or my ketogenic or whatever it is that you're doing to generate those ketones? We want to form or find a balance. And then what are the long-term effects of ketone utilization? Improved insulin sensitivity over time. And so that's one of the reasons that we use it, because we want insulin sensitivity that helps us to reverse diabetes. Greater metabolic flexibility with consistent practice. Remember, everything we do, we got to practice, 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 practice. And then we get an enhanced ability to manage appetite, cravings, right? And all the things that go along with those, that physiologic or psychologic, I keep saying physiologic, but the psychologic hunger, right? Physiologic hunger is what we anticipate we should have, but the psychological hunger is where we feel like we're hungry and we're eating even though the body doesn't need energy. Okay? So that's the long-term effects. So what are some key takeaways? So number one, ketones are natural appetite suppressants, right? As we say, as the ketones go up, they go to the hypothalamus, they decrease ghrelin, and they make the body more sensitive to leptin. That's the first one. Ketones are a stable source of energy, right? As we said, they don't fluctuate like that we get fluctuations with carbohydrates. And then, right, you want to fortify yourself by using ketones. Okay? By using ketones. Incorporate them into your day. Incorporate them into your life. Incorporate them into your metabolic journey. Incorporate them into your disease process. You're reversing your diabetes. You're treating of your diabetes. Treating of your hypertension, and I could go on and on and on, right? So as you're treating, plan to incorporate some ketones into that process, okay? And then our next steps, right? So our next show is going to be on how proteins regulate appetite. So we talked initially about the science of it, kind of a general overview. That was our previous episode. And now we talked about how ketones will affect that. And now you should have a clearer idea how that happens. Our next part of this series is going to be how proteins regulate appetite. And we're going to be doing that. So tomorrow when you come on, we're going to be doing our review of the fasting process as we do on Fridays. When we do our check-in next week on Wednesday, we'll be doing the how proteins, and then on Thursday we'll do our fasting. We'll do check-in again where we do our review, and then the following week we'll go on to overcoming hunger strategically, and then we're gonna have I'm gonna add a 6th episode there in this series. It's gonna be a surprise for you, okay? But I've already got it in mind. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars. And as you guys know, sometimes when here it's there still. So here, before I do that, let me hop over and let's see what we've got in terms of comments. All right, so let's see. So eat dinner, breakfast. Okay, so Steve was giving some advice. Julian said, thank you, Steve, for the advice. Steve said, I did 32 hours recently. Wow, yeah. Great, Steve. Gion said, great. Steve said, I bought my ketone meter for around $30 online. Yeah, they're not too expensive. And there are lots of different brands. Steve, which brand do you have? Is it the Keto Mojo? I couldn't remember. But I have the Keto Mojo. That's the one that I have, that I use. And the reason I bought this one, like I said, there are lots of ones on the market. There was a gal that I follow, and this is the one she used, and I brought it and I used it. And when I first got it, by the way, I took it to the office and I got some ketone sticks, and I was kind of comparing and did some testing. I think did I do that video? I don't know if I showed that video, but it was a video I taped because I intended to do it. I'm not sure if I ended up doing it for you guys, but to see what the differences were between the Keto Mojo or a ketone tester in this case and urine, dipping the urine. Okay, so back to our comments. Gion says, "Is ketone come up only in fasting?" Very good question. Very good question. You don't have to fast in order to get ketones, right? Because people who are doing ketogenic diets are not fasting. They're just eating such little amounts of carbohydrates that their body is naturally going to burn fat. Okay, so a ketogenic diet is eating food, but you're also but you're eating so low carbs that you're actually pushing the body into creating ketones. And we did a show where we talked about fasting mimicking diets. And so these are diets that are out there that mimic fasting that you can, some of them you have to purchase, and there's a particular protocol that they go through. This was all started by a guy out in, I think he's in California at Stanford, or anyway, don't quote me on that. But he was the one who initially came up with the fasting mimicking diets. Okay. Let's see. Steve, Doctor may cover that tonight. Oh, okay. His ketones come up. Okay, in fasting. Yeah, so I was just answering that question. Gian said, "I'm 42 years old woman who has 12-year-old daughter." Okay, I got it. Thank you, Steve. You helped me a lot. What can I eat for fat intake? This one can get interesting, right? So when we do our check-in, when we do tomorrow, we'll go a review on how to break the fast. But things like avocados, nuts, seeds, all of those have fat that you can eat. BM Keto from Walmart, Steve is saying, is I'm thinking that's a brand of ketones. And then Beth does the sticks. Okay. Awesome. And then Jeff said, hard exercise also gets me into ketosis. Yeah, so there are lots of different ways to get into ketosis. Let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look at my blood sugars. I did, and this popped up. Right, so I finally was able to get numbers from my Dexcom, and you'll see there my ketones are 62, or not ketones, but my blood sugar is 62 according to that. And then if I pop back over here, you'll see my Libre says that I'm 61. So they're pretty close to each other. All right, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the meters here. And my report, I guess I should say, not my meter. But my average blood sugar over the last 14 days, 127. I'm in target 95% of the time, target being anywhere from 70 to 180. My glucose management indicator is 6.3, so that means that if I were to get an A1C based on what my blood sugars are here, then it would approximate a 6.3. Now we can't say it's going to be 6.3, but it should be 6.3, but it's an approximation. It's a calculated number. That's why we can't call it an A1C. If I change this to look at 90 days, you'll see that my average blood sugar is 133. I'm in target 88% of the time, target being 70 to 180, and my glucose management indicators are 6.5. So if I got it based on these numbers, it would be a 6.5. And then, was it last week, we did our community meetup, and I showed everyone my numbers. Went through my labs. That was a great time to hang out. If I look at my daily graphs, and now I've been fasting, remember, for 49 plus hours now. Let me go back, and you'll recall that on Monday when I did my show, I started fasting, and I went for 24 hours fasting, and then I broke the fast, and then restarted the fast So Tuesday I restarted the fast. So Tuesday to Wednesday, right? 24 hours. And then Wednesday to where we are now. And of course, I don't have a blood sugar right now because my meter had ended. So we'll see what that is as we move into the rest of the fast. All right, so now let's hop over and let's take a look at my ketones. And let's go ahead and grab my Keto Mojo. And you see on the screen, that's what it was yesterday at a little over 24 hours. My blood sugar was 92 and my ketones were low. So let's go ahead and turn this on and let's go ahead and sync it. And I think Steve said that he thought, let me see if I can go back there and find it. Steve said that he thought it was going to be 0.5. His was 1.1 today. And if we get a drum roll, and boom, look at that. So blood sugar of 68 and ketones of 1.4, right? Ketones of 1.4. So when we talk about ketones, ketones less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic. And so I'm right now in the nutritional ketosis period, but just right on the cusp of going into the higher area. If I look at graphs, the turquoise line, those are ketones, and the tan line, that's blood sugar. And so notice that when I broke my fast last week, as I started eating, the tan line, which is blood sugar, went up. And as it went up, my insulin came out. And insulin, when it comes out, it causes ketones to go away. So as my blood sugar, the tan line, went up, notice that my ketones, which is the dashed line, that went down. And then now, as I started fasting, notice that the blood sugar, right, is dropping. The tan line is going down, right? Started up here at 133, 35, and then down to 92, which was yesterday. And of course, now it's down to 68. And notice that my ketones, which were lower, right? So they were going down. So it was 0.1, and then it was low. It was essentially 0. And then now it's at 1.4. So ketones and insulin cannot be in the same space. So as blood sugars rise, then my insulin comes up. When my insulin comes up, then my ketones have to go bye-bye. Okay, so that's what we're seeing there. All right. I think that was... Yeah, so we looked at the numbers. We looked at this. Got through our discussion. And remember that we're continuing this series as we come back in our check-ins next week. So next episode is how proteins regulate appetite, and then how fat helps with satiety and regulates appetite and fullness, and then overcoming the hunger strategically. We'll give some pointers, some hacks on how we do that in that show, and then we'll have another show that will add to that. So we'll be doing this series for 6 episodes. 6 is for now. If you guys have some other things you want to do, we can do that as well. Remember, hunger. There are triggers that push us in a direction to eat. Just like Jion was saying, that when we're fasting, if we're not careful, there are things, right? Habits, emotions, the food that's around us, the taste of foods, the memory of foods, what the food does to us in terms of our calm. Those are things that will push us in the direction of eating. So one of the things one of the ways, and I'll give you that nugget now, one of the ways of overcoming that is really understanding what's going on in your body. Because when you feel this, you can say, oh, okay, that's what's happening. And sometimes understanding gives us a little bit more ability to overcome some of those times when we're being triggered. Okay, so triggering. Remember, all bites count. Everything that we put in our mouth counts. And that's what we talk about when we talk about balanced bites. Fuel your body with balanced bites. As you're considering the food that you're eating during the non-fasting times, you want to make sure that you're eating nutrient-dense foods. And those are given by this concept of balanced bites. So we want to do whole foods, Minimize processed foods. We want no added sugar, right? So not no sugar, because there are things that we get that have natural sugars in them. Fruits, for example, vegetables have natural sugars in them. So we're not talking about things that already have sugars, but we're saying no added sugar. Lean protein and healthy fats, right? So Jayun, as you're talking about fat, here's a place where that plugs in. Healthy fats, lean protein, healthy fat. Healthy fats like nuts and seeds and what did I say before? Avocado. That one went out of my mind. Starchy and non-starchy vegetables, right? So you want to balance. They has to be tasty and flavorful, and then you want to make sure that they are portion controlled. Portion control. Remember, you have unlimited ability to chart the destiny of your health. Right, you're going to see this coming up over and over as we get into our next season. We're going to be talking about limitless living. Limitless living, right? So you have unlimited ability. Whatever's happened in the past, it's happened. You can right now start the process of becoming healthier at this very moment. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to wait till next week. You don't have to wait for a New Year's resolution, or you don't have to wait to get a gym membership or a bike. Right now, you can make a decision that I'm going to be healthier, and you can begin starting in that road. And that process happens by our Triple E formula for success. The way that you can do that is by educating yourself, right, on all the different ways that the body works and the things that you can do to set yourself up for success. You want to become empowered with the tools that we're learning. All the things that we have, the tools that we're having, fasting being one of the major ones, right? The next tool, the one that we just talked about, which was the balanced bites, it also hits all of the pillars, right? Decreasing insulin, suppressing appetite, and reducing sugar. So we educate, we empower, and then we encourage with the community that we are a part of, that you are building, that you are making rich. Educate, empower, and encourage. That's our Triple E formula for success. When you come, remember the pillars. And as you're looking for tools, you want tools that are going to be hitting these pillars. Okay, how do I reverse my diabetes? If you don't have diabetes, don't think that this is not for you, because remember, there are so many metabolic diseases, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, fatty liver, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and on and on and on. All of those will respond to the things that we talk about and the things that we're doing. So if you don't have diabetes, don't despair. Don't say, well, this is not for me. Yes, it is for you, because you can have great benefit just by following some of the things that we're doing in the new year, new you process. New year, new you, right? New year, new you. And like I said, we're going to be talking about limitless living, right? New year, new you gradually and naturally flows into unlimited. Naturally, gradually flows into limitless living. Because we get to change. We get to make a decision. We get to make a change in our lives. And when you come, just when you come, I want you to join the challenges. You got to get in there, jump in, right? Because those challenges are how you put these things to practice, how you learn them. You cannot be successful unless you are practicing. Make sure that you're joining in. Every month we have a new challenge, so make sure you're getting in there and you're doing that. Number 2, tell your story. Just like Jayun is talking about the challenges that she's having. Just like Steve is talking about the successes that he's had. Just like I tell my story. When we tell our stories, when you tell your story, everyone else in the community benefits from that. Because if they see you do it, they say, okay, well, if Steve can do it, if Jayun can do it, I can do it. If Dr. Woode is having a struggle in this area, I'm not alone. Right? That's what community is all about. So come tell your story. And then invite somebody to this space. Say to them, hey, there's a space we can go where we can be healthy, we can be metabolically successful, we can tap into our unlimited potential to be healthy and to make differences in our health and in our life. Because that ultimately is the goal of all that we are doing. Okay? All right. So, as I always say, I love being in this space with you because you're my community. I love this community. I love the interaction. I love the questions you guys have, and I love the successes that you're seeing in your space. You get to hang with me. I get to hang with you, and I am so pumped that that's the case. All right. So once again, wherever you are, whatever platform you find yourselves on, make sure that you're joining us as we move through our space. We will be back tomorrow as we do our review of fasting in its entirety, how to prepare for a fast, how to get through a fast, and then how to break a fast. We'll be talking about all those different components. We'll be back Saturday at 9 p.m. Central with videos from the vault. And then on Sunday morning, 6 a.m. Central, we'll be here with This Week in Review. And then, of course, next week, we'll be right here with Dwain Woode, MD Live. You don't want to miss any of it because we're off the chain now, right? So we're in this and we are having successes. A lot of people are sharing their stories and having successes as they come to the office here in this space. You are having some successes. And if you're not having successes, you can, because you have the ability in your hands. And this is a space where you can do that. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you at our next show. Bye-bye.